perhaps they hang on to Trey Lance. The 49ers do not know for 100,000% sure if Brock Purdy is going to be healthy to start the season, but at least given a young, talented quarterback like this, there is interest.
This was the furthest thing from what the San Francisco 49ers were expecting from this situation. And it seems like they are ready to officially punt on a player that they gave so much capital in order to be able to select. So we're going to get to everything, man. Before we get to the content, we're running cash giveaways on my Twitter account. All you have to do is retweet that giveaway tweet and turn on my Twitter notifications. And of course, follow me on Twitter. And now that we get all that out of the way, some of the green slips you guys have been sending me is crazy. Like $1,250 off of a $250 slip, or $1,500 off of a $150 power play. We've been making bank off of our basketball picks, bro. March Madness was a huge success, and believe me, we're about to ramp it up for the NBA playoffs. All you have to do is download Prize Picks, use my promo code Mikerophone, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100 instantly. After that, just follow me on Instagram. I post all of my picks onto my Instagram story for free, and we can start making money off of these picks together. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? You guys know how fondly I remember the 2021 NFL draft because there was so much going on in the 2021 NFL draft. The number 1 overall pick was insanely hyped up as the next can't-miss, transcendent, once-in-a-lifetime type of quarterback. But in addition to him, there was plenty of depth in this quarterback class. But if you're not on the market for a quarterback, well, wide receivers like Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith, who was the Heisman Trophy winner, in addition to Jalen Waddle, were available. And that's before we get to the incredible talent like Kyle Pitts at the tight end position, Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater at the tackle position, and Micah Parsons, who definitely had some question marks coming out of Penn State, but boy, did he answer all those questions. I had so much fun covering this draft in particular because there was so much drama surrounding it. And I remember the earliest mock draft I saw saying that Trevor Lawrence was going to go number 1 overall and then potentially Justin Fields at number 2. Shortly after the college football season, you started to see Zach Wilson climb up boards because of this particular throw he made at his pro day, I suppose. But a lot of people began romanticizing Zach Wilson as the next coming of Patrick Mahomes. Eventually, it appeared as though there was a bit of an arms race for the quarterback position. Each quarterback in this NFL draft had something to be excited about. Trevor Lawrence was a can't-miss prospect with a lightning quick release who could make all the throws that you would want him to and had the capability to scramble in the pocket. Zach Wilson oozed tremendous potential. He just needed the right team to unlock that potential. Justin Fields was kind of trending downwards because some scouts were worried about his accuracy issues. Mac Jones was seen as Tom Brady light in the sense that he was able to process defenses ridiculously fast and go through his progressions rapidly, which is something that Bill Belichick probably coveted. And then there was Trey Lance, the biggest question mark in the NFL draft, the biggest project in the NFL draft, and a player that if the right team got their hands on him, could potentially turn him into a star. He was one player that was impossible to mock because you could make an argument that he goes in the first round or he goes way later in the NFL draft, but he did possess tremendous athleticism. There were some accuracy issues, and clearly he was going to be a bit of a project. Regardless, the San Francisco 49ers may have been traumatized from that final Jimmy Garoppolo drive from when they made it to the Super Bowl versus the Kansas City Chiefs because they clearly noticed that they are a quarterback away from greatness. On top of this, they were flushed with draft capital. I mean, they put themselves in a position to go out and potentially get a quarterback that could change everything for them. And that they did. The San Francisco 49ers swung a gigantic trade with the Miami Dolphins, where they would move up from the number 12 selection all the way up to the number 3 selection in the 2021 NFL draft. All they had to do to put themselves in this situation is give up the 12th pick in this draft, a 3rd round pick in 2022, a 1st round pick in 2022, and a 1st round pick in 2023. So 3 1st round picks in order to move up to number 3 overall. That's a tremendous price to pay. I mean, let's not even talk about what those picks became. Let's not even talk about what those picks were involved in. Yeah, they were involved in a Tyreek Hill trade about a year later. But to put things in perspective for you guys, the Jaguars traded Jalen Ramsey in his prime to the LA Rams for 2 1st round picks. Yes, I know recently Jalen Ramsey was traded for a package centered around a 3rd round pick, but you guys get my point. 1st round picks are very, very valuable. When you're giving up 3 1st round picks to move up 9 spots to select number 3 overall from number 12 overall, you better have your eyes on a particular target. You better be sure about that target. And I don't know if you guys remember, there was a whole circus around who the San Francisco 49ers were going to pick. Everyone was trying to get it out of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch at the time. You remember this interview?
What was the thought process on going there instead of Ohio State? Why not go to BYU or to North Dakota State?
We have people at all the spots. A lot of people we trust and people we meet with here over the next month. I normally don't like to go to them a bunch unless I feel unless I have to for some reason. But I also have been kind of grown up in the idea that you don't like to go everywhere and show people things. And when you're sitting at 12 and stuff, I don't want to go to a bunch of quarterback pro days and things like that.
Now, I want you guys to know that the 49ers were practically linked to everyone during this process. I mean, Justin Fields went to some camp that Kyle Shanahan had when Justin Fields was significantly younger. And I honestly thought originally that was who they were going to pick with the number 3 overall pick. But aside from that, it was well documented, and it was even reported by Adam Schefter at a particular time that Kyle Shanahan was absolutely in love with Mac Jones. The thing is, Mac Jones was perceived as the quarterback with the lowest ceiling, although the highest floor out of all QBs in the draft, meaning you're not going to trade up to the number 3 overall pick for the safest QB in the draft. That is probably the least likely to be the biggest star QB in the draft, although Mac Jones had the best rookie year out of all the quarterbacks taken in the 1st round of the 2021 NFL draft. Ultimately, we found out who their guy was. San Francisco 49ers traded up all the way to the number 3 overall pick so they could select Trey Lance with the number 3 overall pick. And if you guys remember, they were celebrating when they got this pick. This is what they said immediately after the pick.
Glad that we got our guy. I'm glad we feel so good about it. And I'm just pumped to get him here.
And the Trey Lance plan for the San Francisco 49ers was quite literally mirroring what the Kansas City Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo played a similar brand of football as to pre-Kansas City Chiefs Alex Smith, I suppose, where he could win you football games, but he isn't necessarily a superstar, and he could serve as a great mentor for Trey Lance and is a consummate professional, the way Alex Smith was for Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes is credited Alex Smith repeatedly for helping him develop and becoming the professional that he is. So I could understand that the 49ers were essentially just trying to copy that plan. And at the time, I was all for it. I honestly thought that Kyle Shanahan knew what he was doing. This man's a genius. Offensively, this guy is a genius. There hasn't been a quarterback that has been in his system that has failed. I mean, I guess except for Josh Johnson when he was told within a moment's notice that he has to go into the NFC Championship game. But typically, when you give Kyle Shanahan time to prepare with the quarterback, typically could set them up for success. So when you draft a quarterback that has accuracy issues, which bear in mind, Patrick Mahomes coming out of Texas Tech was known to be a gunslinging quarterback. Trey Lance coming out of North Dakota State University, who at the time was glorified for producing NFL talents such as Carson Wentz, that wasn't a red flag, was perceived to just have accuracy issues. Nothing that a year sitting behind and studying the Kyle Shanahan offense couldn't fix. Well, Trey Lance would eventually get his opportunity. After a ton of drama, by the way. Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to come back? Jimmy Garoppolo eventually gets signed as the highest paid backup in the entire NFL. And after an entire summer filled with Twitter highlights from Trey Lance in training camp, we finally got to see Trey Lance, the football player, as a starter. And it wasn't necessarily the greatest product, but it was too small of a sample size to truly tell. Trey Lance played in 2 games before he suffered a season-ending ankle injury versus the Seattle Seahawks. touchdowns. He didn't throw a single touchdown pass during those 2 games in 2022, but in 2021, he had significantly more success. He had a decent amount of rushing attempts as well, with 16 yards and 67 rushing yards. And if you remember, there wasn't necessarily the greatest weather for him in week 1. So we still don't know the type of player Trey Lance could be, and that's a huge question mark. But what made things more complicated is the fact that the San Francisco 49ers threw a gigantic dart at the dartboard last offseason when they selected Brock Purdy with the final pick in the NFL draft. You're not expecting this guy to be your starter. Of course not. This is just an insurance pick. This is just a safety pick. Brock Purdy had so many issues coming out of college as well, primarily in the form of his release. And, well, what do you know? All of a sudden, he completely recreates his throwing motion. And after Jimmy Garoppolo got injured, he finally got his opportunity to shine. He was very receptive to Kyle Shanahan's offense. And I don't want to discredit the kid for his remarkable achievements. He did what he needed to do to get his team into a position to potentially go to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, injuries completely sabotaged his chances of doing that. So if you're a San Francisco 49ers fan, you currently fall into one of the following camps. You either think Brock Purdy is your future, or you think Trey Lance deserves another chance. The latest we had from Trey Lance is the fact that he took this crazy picture where his hairline doesn't necessarily look the greatest. But aside from that, the 49ers clearly have a QB controversy. And it's a relatively bizarre one if you think about it, because Brock Purdy might not be able to start the season as a result of the injury he sustained, just narrowly escaping the possibility of Tommy John surgery, which I don't even know if there's ever been a quarterback that got Tommy John surgery. That's typically an injury that MLB pitchers sustain. But as insurance for this particular scenario, ironically, the San Francisco 49ers also signed another former number 3 overall pick in the NFL draft, Sam Darnold, who's still 25 years old, by the way. So if there's something that makes this situation even more complicated, it's the fact that there is now a quarterback in the San Francisco 49ers quarterback room that was drafted with the number 3 overall pick, that's younger than Joe Burrow, by the way, that is quite possibly in his greatest position to succeed since entering the NFL, that is quite possibly teaming up with his best coach ever since entering the NFL. I mean, I guess second to Adam Gase, kidding, and Sam Darnold. So now you have Sam Darnold going up against Brock Purdy, who has been magnificent. 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 67% completion, and over 13,000 passing yards in 5 games. He was also undefeated in all those games, assuming that he was able to stay healthy throughout the entire time. And now it seems like the San Francisco 49ers might be mulling their options. You see, after trading 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance and clearly leaning towards Brock Purdy as their full-time starter, they are now accepting calls on Trey Lance for a potential trade. And this isn't just something I'm scraping from the bottom of the barrel. As a matter of fact, this is coming to us from none other than Ian Rappaport. Watch.
Several teams have inquired over the last several days, last several weeks with the 49ers about trading for the Trey Lance, and teams could read the landscape. It is very clear that Brock Purdy is expected to be the 49ers starter of the future. They also signed Sam Darnold in the offseason, leaving the number 3 selection. They traded all of those picks to go up and get third quarterback option. That just does not really seem to work. 49ers have fielded the calls. I would also not expect the deal to be imminent.
So according to Ian Rappaport, the San Francisco 49ers have received inquiries from several teams looking into a potential trade for former number 3 overall pick quarterback Trey Lance. The conversations have been the result of San Francisco fielding the calls, not necessarily making them, with teams aware that Brock Purdy is likely the future starter. This is a hairy situation. I mean, this is a huge reason why I love the NFL, because what do you do in this particular situation? You invested so much to go out and get Trey Lance, and so far, he hasn't really given you a sample size for you to truly determine whether or not he's your future under center or not. And to be honest, at week 10 of this NFL season, assuming all 3 QBs are in the QB room, you can make a legitimate argument for any of these quarterbacks starting for the San Francisco 49ers. If Sam Darnold starts and throughout the first 5 games of the season, he's able to replicate the start of his career with the Carolina Panthers. If you remember, he was actually quite decent when he was with the Carolina Panthers. Recreate that magic with Christian McCaffrey and lead the San Francisco 49ers to wins. Do you really think Kyle Shanahan's going to say,
oh, well, you know, Sam Darnold's working out just great for us, and he has tremendous arm talent and tremendous potential. We're going to bench him and just bring in Trey Lance?
I don't know, probably Probably not. At least I don't think that's what's going to happen. You guys can let me know if you disagree in the comment section down below. But on the flip side, if Trey Lance and Brock Purdy are both healthy, wouldn't you think that the San Francisco 49ers would be more partial to Trey Lance than Brock Purdy? It's a huge problem because on one hand, if the San Francisco 49ers trade Trey Lance for, at this point, I'm assuming it would be like a second round pick is my guess, then they're admitting that they clearly made a horrific mistake. And it's a very costly mistake because do you know who the number 12 overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft became? Well, I'll let you look it up. Yes, okay, it was Micah Parsons. What are the odds of Micah Parsons, Fred Warner, and Nick Bosa all teaming together on San Francisco? I don't necessarily know. Does that mean that the 49ers would have selected Micah Parsons? I'm not necessarily sure. It's a cute idea. It's a cute fact to throw out, but I am convinced that if they utilized those first round picks properly and they didn't burn them trading for Trey Lance, that could have been the difference between winning the Super Bowl and not winning the Super Bowl. So I'm not going to sit here and play armchair general manager because I understand why they made the decision that they made. Get yourself a rookie scale QB and you're able to build around him efficiently and you're able to win Super Bowls potentially, especially during their rookie window. If you happen to nail this pick and he becomes the next coming of Patrick Mahomes, then even better. At the end of the day, the San Francisco 49ers are in a bizarre situation and I don't know how to navigate it because what if you trade Trey Lance and he becomes who you thought he would become? Because at the same time, we didn't get a huge sample size of Trey Lance last year, and obviously when you sustain the injury that he sustained, there's obviously going to be a huge wrench in his development. So if you were John Lynch, what would you do? Let me know in the comment section down below. Are you confident in Brock Purdy being successful after opposing teams had the opportunity to study his tape, study his tendencies? Do you think Brock Purdy could come back and be a full-fledged starter in the NFL? Or do you think that he's most likely going to be a Nick Foles type of QB that succeeded when they needed him and is probably better relegated to backup duty? Do you think Trey Lance deserves to start? Do you think Sam Darnold's going to thrive as the temporary quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers? And what would you do to fix this situation? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.